Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Demas, the executive editor here at Lincoln Square.
And I'm Sam Ostrout, the executive producer at Lincoln Square.
And welcome to the weekly assignment where Sam and I talk to you about what's coming up this week on Lincoln Square, the latest headlines, and what we can all do to fight back against authoritarianism. Today, we have Jess Piper joining us once again. She's the executive director from Blue Missouri and the author of View from Rural Missouri here on Substack. We are so glad to talk with you about Dems' chances in the midterms and about some really interesting ballot measures that you've had in Missouri. So thank you so much for being back here, Jess.
Thanks. It's so good to be with you, Susan. Sam and I were talking beforehand. I've got several of my grandkids over here. So if you hear some commotion, it's okay. We're just going to work through it.
Totally understand. That is the life of doing stuff on camera these days. So
yes.
Exactly. Kids, pets, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And I can't wait to talk about what's going on in states like Missouri and Kansas and all through the heartland right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess let's start here, where one of the most exciting things that we've been hearing is how the map seems to be expanding for Democrats. You know, we're talking about Iowa and Texas and North Carolina, but even beyond that, you know, Nebraska, and you've got a key seat in Missouri for the House. Talk to us about what is going on and where the changes are coming from.
Well, I think people need to know it hasn't been a sudden change. I've been working towards this, for several years. As the executive director of Blue Missouri, we fund down ballot candidates. So we give money to people running in the reddest, most rural, most difficult races across the state. And so we've been doing that for 10 years now. And we're starting to see the movement because it's a long game. We're starting to see, when I ran in 2022, got my butt kicked, there were 40% of the seats that were uncontested. This year, 2% are uncontested. So that's a huge amount of movement to see people running. Beyond that, we're funding these people. And what's happening is there are people on ballots, Democrats on ballots that haven't been on ballots in 20 years. And so whenever I talk about the fact that people need to understand, why this happened, why people are voting for Republicans when it's not in their self-interest, they don't have people to vote for a lot of times. So we're seeing that change. And now we're seeing a backlash because I think you guys want to talk about something big that just happened in Missouri, Amendment 4 and Amendment 5.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talk to us about that, because I know you've had some very successful ballot measures with abortion, the minimum wage. I mean, some pretty progressive measures in your state that's very red. Yeah. But Republicans don't like that very much. And so you had Amendment 4 that would make it so much more difficult to get these ballot measures to voters. But that really went down in flames.
In flames. I've never seen anything like it. 83% of the people said, no, absolutely not. You are not taking our voice away from us. You're not taking our ballot initiative away from us. So Missouri is one of 26 states where the voters can gather signatures and then put something on the ballot. So say like Amendment 3, which 2 years ago was the abortion amendment. We needed to gather 180,000 signatures to get it on the ballot. We gathered 380,000 signatures and put it on the ballot, and then it won. But it didn't matter in Missouri, because we still didn't have any access to abortion for a year and a half after voters said you have to have that right. And just recently, the Supreme Court said you have to give them the right. They've already voted on this. But guess what, friends? It's back on our ballot in 8 weeks. They are putting abortion back on the ballot after we just voted for it, because they always tell us, oh, it's big money that did this, right? It was these big money interests. No, it wasn't. It was people like me gathering signatures in church parking lots across, rural parts of the state. They don't understand what they have done. They're over their skis, and they don't understand how angry the people of Missouri are. There's a big one that really cemented this for people. In 24, we voted to make sure that everyone in this state had access to sick pay, earned sick time. They undid it. And so there were so many people that said, if you can undo that, you can do anything. And so we're done. They're tired of it.
And so, I'm curious about that. You talk about the backlash and in these particular overreach, they're getting out over their skis, clearly. But is that backlash going to ripple forward into other issues, into other races, into other candidates? Do you see that prompting a shift more towards blue?
I do. I see that happening because now people are starting to connect the dots. Before they would say, well, I already voted on this. What happened? And then they go about their daily business and go to work and make supper, and then they forget about it. Now we have labor unions that are putting in $1 million that said, you know what? You told your representatives what you wanted. They voted against it. Here's a list of their names. We're going to give $1 million to people to send out the message and say, your representative voted against you. You vote against him. You don't send him back to Jeff City. And here are the people who did it. Now you go to the polls and you take care of those people. And I'm like, finally, because you do have to connect the dots for people. You have to say your representative is the one who's voting against you. I would go and knock doors and talk about, the fact that people didn't have paved roads, and they would blame Joe Biden. Joe Biden, what do you mean? Right? And so we have to connect the dots for people and make them understand this is your state rep and you have to vote him out or he's going to keep voting against you.
I have to think that part of the technique that Republicans are deploying here is trying to demoralize people. I mean, they go out to the ballot box, they vote for things, like abortion rights, and then their legislature, by hook or by crook, makes sure that they don't have those rights. So at some point, are they just hoping that people give up and they stop trying to push for anything good?
That's why they tried to get rid of our voice. That's why they said Amendment 4, you guys don't have a choice anymore. And voters saw through it. And they also tried to, on the same ballot, eliminate an income tax. Do you know our governor ran his entire premise for running for governor was to eliminate the income tax? 64% of Missouri's services, our entire budget is based on the income tax. We already are 48th in school funding. We are 49th in teacher pay. And you want to delete 64% of the budget? How are they going to do it? They were going to raise our sales tax. So over 80% of the people saw through that too. And that was our governor's biggest project. And we blew it out of the water.
And that's just a gift to the rich. Because
it's a wealth transfer downward, right?
Yes. And they understood it because you would think people, all they see when they go to the ballot is tax. And they're like, heck yeah, I want to get rid of a tax. They didn't. We saw through it. And that's why Republicans right now are panicking because they know we've seen through your tricks. We see what you're doing. I mean, the GOP's had a supermajority in Missouri for 24 years. If you want to see what happens to a state under this fiscal responsibility, come to Missouri. We are losing services. My roads aren't paved. I don't have a sidewalk in my town. My daughter, when she went to school, she got a book that was old enough to vote. I mean, that's what is happening in states with Republican governance. And people are seeing through it, and the Republicans know it. And friends, that's why they've got to pass something like the SAVE Act, right? They have got to take away our ballot because there's no way they can win.
I think, we were talking in the green room. I make no qualms about it. I'm from Kansas. I'm a proud Kansan, a natural enemy of the Missourians, of course. And but we were talking about that book, What's the Matter with Kansas? And I think anybody who's read it knows that the premise is that the project to make Kansas overly red was decades in the making, right? It was a very long project. And the Democrats, yourself excluded, have not had that kind of long-term vision, right? And now we see some Democratic groups, centrist groups, raising funds to fight the DSA, right? To fight other Democrats.
Yeah.
What could you do? What would you do with a $16 million war chest to support democracy?
I would start looking into states like Kansas. I would look into Iowa, which is this close to electing, a Democratic governor, and Josh Turek and all these other people. Look into these spaces because, friends, we can't make our blue states bluer. We can't. And when you look into states like Missouri, I can't pull any more blue votes out of Kansas City or St. Louis or Columbia. Right. I need to go into the spaces where people have become apathetic, where they have stopped voting, where they've decided it's not even worth their time, and spend the money there to get people to come back to vote. Because, being from Kansas, Nebraska, all these people and these prairie progressives, people who have been progressive for a long time because they know what good government looks like. They know that good government can save farms. Donald Trump can't save a farm. Donald Trump wouldn't know what a farm was if he landed on it, right? He doesn't understand anything about what's going on in spaces like this. Republicans played the long game, just like you said, starting with Reagan. Reagan was elected when I was 4 years old and I'm a grandma. That's how long they have been working on this long game. And we have been stuck in 2-year cycles, and we've got to get out of that cycle. And that's why what I do sounds insane. I raise money for races that are basically going to lose. But this is what I know. Eventually they'll win. And you only come back when you start spending money there.
I want to ask you about a vexing problem. So we have had very progressive candidates who have been running on economic populism, and I think with an agenda that it would really resonate in red areas, rural areas. But when you look at how they've done, like in Wisconsin and Michigan, they're losing those voters. And so I want to ask your expert opinion as somebody who's in the trenches. What do progressive candidates have to do, or just Democrats in general, to break through with voters that clearly have some trust issues?
They have to be there. They have to be in the communities. They have to have people running for office that everyone knows. When I would go and knock a door, people recognize me, or they recognize me from being from the community. So it's hard to say I'm a baby killer, I'm a gun grabber, I'm all these terrible things when they actually know me. So you have people in their communities working within their communities. That's why it's important to have everyone, on a down ballot, people that recognize, their people there. Don't be scared of saying things like, you should have health care. You should have funded schools. Your taxpayer money should go to things that are good for you. People have to be reminded of that. And I think that's crazy, right? But it's true. You have to remind them your taxes are supposed to go to you.
Yeah, it's funny. There's this meme going around that's like imagined conversation between a Democrat and a MAGA, and they're like, "Hey, you spend $8,000 a year on insurance. What if we raise your taxes $2,000 and you didn't have to pay $8,000?" And they're like, "No, no, no." They're like, "Well, do you want to not pay? Do you want to save $6,000? Yes. Do you want to pay $2,000 in taxes? No." Right? It is a weird messaging situation, and I think that you're right. The one of the lessons that I hope more candidates learn from Mamdani is the same thing you're saying. Show up, be there, ask questions, listen.
Right. And that's why it's so important that it's someone from your community that I know in a lot of rural spaces, they won't have a candidate, or maybe someone will say, hey, why don't we go knock a few doors? And they'll send somebody from God knows where to come knock a door somewhere. And it doesn't work, because you have to understand the community that you're in, right? And so I know I knocked doors with a young person from Columbia, and bless her heart, she was sweet as she could be. But the first door was a neighbor right down the road from me. And she said, hey, I'm so-and-so from Columbia. Would you like to talk about politics? And the lady's like, no, and shut the door, right? And I was like, oh God. So I had never knocked a door, but I got the next one because I know my neighbors. And that's how we have to talk to people. And like you said, not be scared. My neighbors could look at Mamdani and just say, well, he said he was going to do these things. He did these things. What's wrong with that? He's actually doing the things that Democrats have been saying they were going to do for a long time. And that's why I get excited about the left. That's why I get real excited about progressives, because they say big things and then they try to do them.
And so I think that for Democrats, there's this knee-jerk reaction like, okay, if we're going to talk with rural voters, it's got to be kitchen table issues. It has to be, economic issues, which are, of course, important. Nobody likes paying more for gas, and nobody likes the tariffs. So those are logical, I think, arguments to make. But we're seeing a real revulsion against other policies from Trump. I mean, ICE is not popular anywhere. And so I'm wondering, what are the things that you're hearing on the doors beyond just the economy, where people are starting to respond to what Republicans or what Trump is doing in a very negative way, even if they voted for him?
Well, the things that it's what I'm not hearing. You don't hear anybody talking about trans kids. You don't hear anything about bathrooms. You don't hear anything about, trans kids playing sports. You don't hear anything about gay folks getting married. You hear none of that. You do hear, I can't afford gas. I can't afford groceries. And I finally thought I was going to get to retire. And now I'm having to help my adult kids. I don't know what to do. And so they are realizing it is noise. And if you go online and you listen to it, it's all about trans people, right? It's a trans panic. When you knock a door, no, it is not. People can't afford their daily lives. I lost my health insurance in January because they took away the tax subsidies, and my monthly rate increased by double. And so that's what is happening. And then when you think of rural spaces, it's double that, because you think a farmer, he gets his insurance from the marketplace, or quite frankly from Medicaid. That's where a lot of people are receiving their insurance out here. It's getting cut. And so rural spaces are just like every other space. I mean, they need the same things. It's just a different lifestyle. But we all, if you went into Kansas City, into an urban neighborhood, they have a defunded school. Me too. They don't have access to healthcare. Me too. They don't have access to childcare. Me too. Can't afford your groceries, can't afford your gas. Same problems, just looks different.
Yeah, the scapegoating is really, it's remarkable. And I feel like when you see other Democrats pounding policies that actually help the constituents, and look, again, not to harp on Mamdani, but whatever his policies, he's working on behalf of those who voted for him, right? And so I'm curious about the candidates in Missouri who you got. Let's talk about your roster, because that's really what this is all about, right?
And I just came from an event that was sold out down in Franklin County, Union, Missouri, 10,000 population, completely sold out. And there were 5 different candidates there. There were candidates running for things like county commissioner. You never hear that. I haven't been able to vote for a county office in a decade. And now, you know what happened? You know what's really important about county commissioners? They're the ones who are regulating these data centers. And now all of a sudden, everybody knows what a county commissioner is, right? And so when these data centers or school defunding comes in, people wake up and go, oh God, I've been asleep because I've been at work and I haven't been able to pay attention. But we have candidates who are so good. Fred Wellman is running for Congress against Ann Wagner down in the 2nd. I mean, he graduated from West Point. He's been in Iraq 4 times, graduated from Harvard with his master's. He's running against a woman that hasn't had a town hall in a decade, who won't show up to anything. He's going anywhere, talking to everybody, a very well qualified candidate. I think he might win. And that's crazy, right? I've got, there's a race up here where I am, where my 26-year congressman decided to call it quits. He was tired of, I think, trying to take up for Trump all this time. He's a Republican. The Republican running in his stead, who just won the primary, the only thing he's saying is, I support Trump. And I said, good. I hope you take that message to the doors. Good job, friend. You're going to get your butt kicked in this, with what's going on right now. So just seeing these candidates who know the issues, who know what people need, and who are saying it, just gives you, so much joy, so much hope. It's incredible to watch.
One thing I really admire about your Substack is that you don't shy away from some of these social issues that Republicans demagogue. And you had this great piece about how the Heritage Foundation and the rights attack on trans athletes is really just a stalking horse for attacking women's sports in general and Title IX. And, you don't shy away from talking about how trans kids and trans athletes are being demonized, but it's part of a larger issue about how they see women and their role in society. Right. And I think that it's an excellent point, and we're seeing it with all of these crazy attacks on the WNBA right now, which I think a lot of people enjoy watching men, women, kids. I mean, a lot of times the games are more fun than the NBA, and I like basketball quite a bit. And so clearly they see that this is becoming a cultural phenomenon and they want to stomp all over the joy. But talk to us a little bit about this, and also maybe some of the conversations that you've been having about this in your community.
Yeah. So one of the terrible things is that a lot of this what's going on in the WNBA is because of a girl from Missouri, Sophie Cunningham. Like, stop. What is your point of doing this, right? And so I know, because I raised a daughter who was, recruited at the collegiate level to play softball. If you cared about girls' sports, you'd fund them. You'd give them equal playtime. You'd give them equal fields. You'd give them equal coaches. You'd let them have some of those, nice uniforms like the football team has, right? And trust me, I'm married to a football coach. I understand this, I understand what's going on. But if you were really worried about girls' sports, those are the things you'd be talking about. Not talking about the 10 people who may or not be trans who play for the NCAA when there are 500,000 athletes in the NCAA, and you're worried about 10 people. No, you're not. You really don't like girls' sports in general. Do you know why men and women had sports separated in the first place? It goes back to the 1920s in a collegiate swim meet where a woman won. A woman won, and they decided we're going to have to separate this, right? We need different areas for men and women to compete. And so they don't care about girls' sports. It's a way to attack trans people. Why do they attack trans people at 1% or less in a population? Because they have to have a culture war, because they can't talk about an illegal war in Iran where we have people that are sitting on a boat, sailors, without meat or access to feminine hygiene products, where we have, people who are dying in an illegal war, where we have high gas prices, where no one can afford groceries. What are they going to talk about? Those things? They're going to talk about trans kids. It's an outrage. And I'm telling you, just like you guys have seen, people notice. They notice. That doesn't have anything to do with me. And so it's a panic.
There's our clip. Thanks for that one, Jess.
You're welcome.
Woo, I'm all fired up now.
Yeah, but we definitely see how throughout history, sports are a vehicle, especially for authoritarians, to try and shove their agenda in our faces. We saw this during the Olympics, where Hitler completely flipped out about Jesse Owens winning. And that caused so much of a backlash with African Americans. We saw that with Major League Baseball as well, and the Negro Leagues. And so I think you can tell whenever there's progress because you have these backlashes and these freakouts. But the key for us is, what do we do to keep fighting and to win?
Well, I just read a great piece today. I didn't get to finish it. I started it, though, right before we started, by Art Cullen, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning author from Iowa. And he talks about rural Iowa. And his piece today is called Commies in the Cornfield. And he talks about all the socialism and the progress and the programs we have used in rural spaces for years, and how this was a direct answer to the overreach of the Gilded Age, right? When all these billionaires, the Rockefellers, all these folks really tried to impress on us that we were the underclass and would always be the underclass. And we came out instead with unions, with labor, with people fighting for progressive policies, with those communists, right? We're actually socialists, but people don't know the difference, apparently. But these are the things we have to remind people. Your money should pay for things for you. Your tax dollars should go to improve your life and everybody else's life. I hear people saying all the time, because education is important to me, well, I'm gonna send my kids to private school. Why should I pay taxes into the public school? Because you want to live in a literate society. Because you want to go to the hospital and have a nurse and a doctor. You want to have a dentist. You want to have, when you get older and you need specialized care and go into assisted living, you want to have someone there who knows what they're doing. We live in a society where we take care of each other, and the way we take care of each other is with these socialist policies.
Amen. And you, for what it's worth, you want the kids running around in your street to be educated.
Yes.
Right. You want the people who live in your community to have an education. because crime rates diminish, quality of life improve. It's the dumbest thing. My kids are out of the house. Why should I pay for schools?
Yeah.
Idiot.
You still need a literate population.
Absolutely. Jess, thank you so much for coming by and telling us what's going on in Missouri and beyond. We love hearing about the work you're doing because it's so important for Democrats to play everywhere. And we'll look forward to talking with you as this midterm season continues.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun this midterm season. So I'm really excited about the next 8 weeks. I encourage everybody to get out there and support a local candidate. Thank you both for having me on, and I would love to see you anytime soon.
Thank you, Jess.
Bye,
Thank
friends.
you.
Bye, all.
Well, Sam, did you have as exciting of a weekend as Nancy Mace did, apparently, getting all tatted up? And
tell me more about this Nancy Mace story. I was painting my sunroom all weekend while my kids are at sleepaway camp, and I just missed, I have a Google alert set up for Nancy Mace tattoo, but it didn't come across apparently.
Wow. And what a weekend it should have gone off. Yeah, she's living her best life there. In addition to picking on Muslim people and trans people, she's also, debuting some new body art. Didn't win her primary for South Carolina governor, so maybe she's looking at next steps.
Yeah, now she's in her YOLO era, right?
Yep.
And she loses a lot.
Yeah, it's one of the most fun things that we get to witness. How many times she loses? Remember when after Lindsey Graham passed away, she was like, "Well, I'd like to be senator," and everyone else was like, "Nah."
Like, oh,
nope.
Cool.
Yep.
Why don't you go get a tattoo, girl? You should get a tattoo.
Yeah. I mean, look, if that's what gets her to shut up about stuff that, we don't need to hear from her about, works for me.
Well, and look, I mean, we joke about her, and rightly so, and I hope we never ever stop, because it is the fire that lights my path. But the stuff that she says is insidious and terrible and pushes this kind of Overton window of horribleness to the rest of the world. And we're seeing now, M. Gessin had an amazing piece in the New York Times. And Gessin is one of my favorite writers right now. And the piece was about Kansas. And speaking of Kansas and Missouri, and Kansas is potentially passing some legislation that will immediately revoke any driver's license that has a gender identity that doesn't match the birth gender. And so you have transitioned, you're a trans woman, your license will be immediately null. And if you get pulled over the first time, you can spend time in jail. And you get fined. If you get pulled over a second time, you can do 3 to 6 months in jail. And the thing is, they'll put you in jail the gender that you were born as, which is could be catastrophic. This is the kind of shit that Nancy Mace is pushing, and she's getting tattoos and she's laughing it up and losing everywhere she can. But it's a real serious thing. Scapegoating. Of course, it's not paying dividends, as Jess Piper said, but
nonetheless, it's very harmful. And yes, it is heartening to see that it is not playing with the electorate. This particular election, last election was a different story. But at the same time, it's not stopping a lot of red states from passing these laws that essentially are revoking some of the essential rights of citizenship from people just because they disagree with them. And certainly we can see this with the draconian policies that we have with immigration as well. People who have done everything right in the green card process and are being snatched away and being taken to detention centers, which is not the way the law is supposed to work. But the Trump administration is always of the mindset of just go ahead and do it and wait for the courts to catch up.
Yeah, everything can be symbolized by the East Wing, right? You just tear it down. Just do it. Just do the thing. But those things can't be remade often, right? You can't just make somebody's experience in detention disappear from their memories, right? That it's just not. It's not how it works. You can't erase the trauma of being detained or being, beaten in front of your children,
right?
While committing no crimes.
Right.
You just can't erase that stuff. And I think this era is going to be really remembered as a horror show. I wonder, what do you think? The scapegoating and all of this kind of stuff, all the terrible policies. Do you think enough people will wake up to the fact that it's not working, that it's not making their lives better? What's your take on this, on midterms?
Well, I'm really hopeful that enough people will. I think we're facing some serious headwinds that we didn't necessarily face in 2018, the midterm during Trump's first term. We didn't have the extreme gerrymandering. We didn't have a Supreme Court put its thumb on the scale and basically hand many more seats over, especially in the South. And we didn't have Trump really understand how the federal government could be such a tool of the evil, and he could mess with mail-in voting and possibly sending troops to the polls and on and on. So we have a lot working against us, but the good news is what people like Jess are seeing in areas all across the country, even in red areas, that people are sick of Trump and they want to walk over broken glass to vote for something different and something better.
Everyone in the chat, hit the heart if you're sick of Trump. That's my
shameless plug for engagement. But I mean, still, we all are.
I do see a lot of hearts.
We need it. We need
Peter
it.
Zukowski says at least one 3-year-old in detention with his mom. Despicable. I think at least one. I mean, I'm sure there are
children who have died in detention. It's one of the most sickening things I saw were those drawings that came from the children at Dilley in Texas. I mean, if that doesn't break your heart, then you don't have one.
Yeah. The storytelling that will come out of this era is hopefully really going to be something, as long as it's not AI created. Yeah.
Well, Sam, why don't we talk about what's coming up this week? We have a really special interview coming up tonight with retired Navy Commander Bobby Jones. He will be on with Major Jason Watson, who you probably have seen his protest on the Capitol steps, where he's calling for the impeachment of both Vance and Trump. And Bobby is talking to him exclusively about this fight. So you're going to want to see that tonight.
This was, Bobby reached out this weekend and said, "Hey, I got this interview," and Watson will be on CNN tonight, but it's a shorter interview, and he wanted somebody to interview him in a longer format, and he reached out to Bobby, and that just tells you the kind of reputation that Bobby has, not only as interviewer and host, but within the veteran community. He runs Veterans for Responsible Leadership. I think he's even more than a host, he's an advocate. I've been watching the tape of the interview, and it's really remarkable. I hope you all watch it. It comes on after Watson's CNN hit. So it'll be on at 8:30 on Lincoln Square.
And it takes incredible bravery to do what he is doing, and Bobby is really the perfect person to talk to about all of that. So please tune in. I think it will be a very enlightening conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
And Sam, you had a very different but still important conversation with Dr. Rob Davidson about Trump's recent EO on vaccines and just part of the overall attacks on public health. Still can't eat salad. Now we can't eat guacamole and salsa. So things are going great.
Great.
Dr. Rob, he also is run for Congress too, so he understands politics as well as policy. He's always great to talk to about these issues.
I want more Dr. Rob in my life. That dude is great. And he has a Substack and a podcast called Paging America, where they talk about medical issues and through the lens of politics and all of that. Chris O, Bobby will be on at 8:30 tonight. And this interview, I really wanted to talk about the executive order on vaccinations because Trump wants to change the vax schedule and break apart the MMR, the measles, mumps, rubella, vax into 3 different vaccinations. And they say it's for the safety of the kids, but there's a couple of things. One is that it means you, as a parent, you now have to schedule 5 or 6 appointments across a year instead of the 1. That means 5 or 6 jabs. For a kid who's afraid of jabs already, it's traumatizing. But the other thing is it hits lower income families because who can get off work to take their kids to the doctors 5 or 6 times a year?
Right.
And also they're the same families who cannot afford for their children to be sick. So the real point of this EO is not to separate vaccinations. It's to instill fear of them and cynicism and skepticism of vax so that people aren't vaccinated. And this comes as we hit over the weekend a record measles outbreak year. I think it's a record since maybe 91. Great. You got to watch that. That's coming up in 24 minutes, that interview. It's a good one.
Also coming up today at 2, Frank Figluzzi will have on the staff attorney from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, Chris Line. That should be a really interesting conversation. You've probably heard their commercials if you listen to various radio programs or podcasts. But in light of everything that the Trump administration is doing with Project 2025, what Sam and Andrew Watkins talk about every Sunday, it's going to be a really good conversation to talk with one of the lawyers that is fighting back against this.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm always excited for Frank shows.
Yeah.
He just has a way about him. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's going to be another good one. It's a busy Monday.
It's a very busy Monday, but I mean, we are like under 80 days to the election. So it's going to be like this. And stay tuned because we have some exciting things ahead of you for this election season that is going to make you want to stay with us each and every day. So just a hint there. And just one last election themed program on It's the Democracy Stupid on Friday. Amanda Littman from Run for Something. They're the group that recruits younger progressive candidates to run and have had a great run this season. She will be on for a bit of a primary and postmortem, but mostly a look ahead to November.
Yeah, I mean, man, I can't get enough of the look aheads, right?
We need nervous. Some hope, right?
We need hope, but I'm on edge. I don't know about all of you people out there, but especially after these primaries where the polling was just so wildly everywhere and nowhere and off, and some polls were, campaign supported, and some polls were independent. And nobody was right. I don't know, man. I don't know what to think. I need some juice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys tell us, because I have spent more time than I can tell you going through polls. I commissioned polls when I used to run Inside Michigan Politics. If you guys find that fascinating, maybe we will feature more in-depth analysis of what you should be looking for in polls, what polls are good to pay attention to, which ones you can ignore. Let us know in the comments, because we want to make sure that you're getting the information that you need, the experts that you want to hear from during this midterm season. Because look, anybody can talk, anybody can give you their opinion, but we want to make sure that we're giving you facts and the kind of informed opinions that really help you during this period, instead of just raise your blood pressure, because none of us really need that.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. We don't want to just be people screaming at you to make you mad. We really want to be a resource.
Yeah.
And you guys are a resource for us. This is a whole team. We're together on. Nicholas says, by the way, I watch every Sunday. I assume you're talking about Unholy Ground, but cannot make the lives. Nicholas, just email me a question if you want me to answer on air. Email it to me. That goes for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always fun when you guys are able to do your live edition, because I love that kind of interplay with the audience. You guys are both so great at it. And hopefully that's nice for people as a little break on Sunday too.
Yeah. It's a real happy, fun conversation every Sunday. I'm joking. It's terrible. It's very dark. But we do offer hope at the end.
Yeah. Well, coming up, before we go, want to just let you know what we've got for your call to action, your weekly assignment. And this is something that I will be writing about tomorrow. So just a little preview. Tell Congress not to sell off our public lands. I know there's so much that the Trump administration is doing, especially while it's summertime. A lot of you are traveling out there. I just spent the last week hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park, where I had to wait in line for a very long time just to get in or talk to a ranger because of all the cuts. But in addition to all the other horrible things that the Trump administration is doing, our public lands are on the chopping block. You've probably seen what they've done to the Bears Ears Monument in Utah. That's only the beginning. And they're hoping that they flood the zone with so many terrible things that they're doing, that stuff like our public lands gets shoved down to the bottom. But this is a great time to talk with your member of Congress. We've got the link for you, and we'll drop it in the write-up as well, because there are public lands in all 50 states, whether it's a historic area, a national park, a national seashore. We all have public lands, BLM land, national forests, and all of it is in danger. And all of it is a national resource that should not be exploited by Trump and his cronies. So keep that top of mind this summer.
Yeah, you're seeing what's happening in Big Bend in Texas, which is it's one of the lesser known national parks, and it is a remarkable place. I wrote about it extensively when I worked in documentary TV, and it is just a gem, and they are bulldozing it.
Yeah. Yep. If there is something good, the Trump administration will find a way to try and kill it. Yep. And it's up to all of us to try and fight back.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining all of us today, and stick around, because as we just went through, today is a remarkable lineup, and you'll want to see these shows.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Susan.
Thanks, Sam.